All right, boys and girls, we are continuing our study of the food web and energy pyramids. So we're going to start off again with the link that we had to CK12. So let's hop on down to it and I'll show you what we need to be looking at. First, we want to look at this website here, okay? And look at the parts that we did not take notes on last week, okay? So last week you kind of just looked at this part down here, okay, with the food chain and the food web. This week I want you to concentrate on trophic levels and this food pyramid here, okay? What's a producer? What's a consumer? Okay, what are the levels of consumers? All right, and I want you to also take a look at this here. Okay, so when we have energy, okay, energy has to come from somewhere, right? We all get our energy. Every single thing on earth gets its energy from the sun in some way, shape, or form. If it's not direct, then it's indirect, right? Because if it's not you sitting out in the sun, but you're inside consuming food, then you're indirectly getting your energy from that sun instead of directly, okay? Because where do those plants get their energy from? The sun, right? So when we're looking at energy being transferred from one trophic level to another, okay, we also want to remember that energy can only flow through the ecosystem in one direction. At each trophic level, organisms need sufficient energy to heat themselves and reproduce. Therefore, only 10% of the energy in each level is transferred to the next higher level. So what does that mean? What could that possibly mean? Well, that means that, okay, if I'm going to eat an apple, right, and that apple came from a tree, then that apple got a lot of energy. It made a lot of energy, okay? The tree made a lot of energy to make that apple, okay? When I consume that apple, okay, I have 10% of that energy, okay? And then if something, I don't know, some wild beast consumes me, then they're only getting 10% of my energy, okay? And we'll go over just a little bit about those numbers in a second, but let's keep looking at this. So only 10% of the energy in a level is transferred to the next. Most energy pyramids do not have more than 5 energy levels, okay? It just means that when we go along the food chain, usually there's only these 5 levels, okay? Just because it gets really complicated if they get too much higher than that, okay? Now, let's move to the first step, okay, is you're going to take notes on this page for your own benefit, okay? Keep this page open while you're doing the actual assignment, okay? Because you're gonna wanna come back to it to just clarify a few things and look at it. Your second step, okay, is gonna be the video. All right, we have another Amoeba Sisters video. This is a different one. It's called Food Webs and Energy Pyramids, okay, Bedrocks of Biodiversity. So that's a big word that we want to make sure that we know. Biodiversity, okay? So let's look that up real quick, okay? Because I want you want to know this word. This is a big word that we need to understand. What is biodiversity, okay? Biodiversity is the variety of life in the world or in a particular habitat or ecosystem. So if an ecosystem, right, is biodiverse, okay, that basically means that there are a lot of different things going on in that ecosystem, okay? So let's look at this. This says ecosystem, right? So let's look at this picture real quick, if it's gonna let us. Oy vey. Okay, so here's an ecosystem. here's a complete ecosystem, and you can see that there is a lot of diversity in the biology, which is the life here, okay? So here's a kangaroo, there's some insects, here's some protozoan, bacteria, plankton, even just this one lake or pond right here is biodiverse, okay? Does that make sense? We've got some trees and some fungi, okay? So this is an ecosystem that has a lot of biodiversity, all right? So it's a good word for us to always understand. If there's not a lot of biodiversity in an area, then it's not going to be a fully operational ecosystem. It's not going to be able to do all the wonderful things that it could have the potential to do if there's not enough wildlife to support it, okay? So getting back to this video, you're going to watch this, okay, and it's going to tell you, all right, about your food chain, and it's going to talk to you about energy periods. See, we have different trophic levels, and here it talks to you about 10% of that energy. So the sisters are going to kind of walk you through a little bit more of that math. Okay, so 10,000 kilocalories, which is a kcal. Kcal is a kilocalorie, okay? And then, you know, the third level, see how there's a 10% loss? Trophic level 1 down here has 10,000 kilocalories. Trophic level 2 has 1,000. Trophic level 3 has 100. Okay, so that's your 10% loss, right? That's 10 loss off of each thing. So this would just be 10. Trophic level 4 would just have 10 kcals. Okay, now you're going to watch that, and just like we usually do, watch it all the way through once, just sitting and watching. Okay, while you are sitting and watching, okay, you're just going to think about it, right? Okay, and then you're going to take a look at the PDF that I'm going to leave for you on the page, on the assignment page, which is this, okay? So here's our PDF with all the questions that we need, and I sort of edited this over here because I wanted one of the questions to be more specific to us. So you're gonna walk through this, and it'll say things like, you know, for the grass, list any of the below alphabetized words in this box. You're not going to be able to edit this PDF, okay? What you're going to do instead is I'm going to give you a Google Doc, okay? You're going to have, hopefully, fingers crossed, you will have your own copy of this Google Doc for you to edit and use, okay? So that's a feature that I'm trying to get to work on Google Classroom so that none of you are requesting to edit the document and you don't have to make your own new one. You just have one already there set up for you to edit, okay? You'll see in front of you what to click. I'll explain it in the description of the directions, okay? So you're going to basically compare these two things. Here's your PDF, here's your doc that you're going to edit. So number 1, okay, says which direction should the arrow go on the food chain, right or left? So if we're starting at grass and it wants to go up to snake, then which direction is this food chain going? So you're going to write answer, blah, 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 okay? So you're gonna edit that, and that's what you're gonna submit, okay? So you'll notice here, number 4 is pretty important because I want you guys to do a little bit of research, okay? So you might be watching that video a couple of times to be able to answer all these questions, okay? But what I want you to do here is you are going to look up animals that could fall into these categories. It says, using what you have learned so far about trophic levels and food chains, list 2 native California species as examples in each level of the energy pyramid below. So you're going to do some Googling. You're going to look up first of all, you're going to think about what kinds of animals would go in these pyramid levels, okay? So what is a producer? Well, we know a producer is grass, right? So you might want to look up native plant species in California, okay? Or native tree species, native flower species, okay? Things that animals eat, right? So don't look in your backyard and think just because you have an orange tree that it's native to California. Like I have an olive tree, but are olive trees native to California? Probably not, okay? Just because it's in your yard doesn't mean it's native. That means native means that it naturally started to grow on its own without humans interfering and making it grow there, okay? So then you're gonna look at primary consumers, right? Maybe you wanna look at some fish or bug insect species, okay, that are gonna be in some of these. What birds, what kinds of hawks are native to California, okay? So look up species on your own on Google and see what kind of species might fit into this. Your Google Doc here will not look exactly the same as this one here, okay? Especially because, you know, it's just going to physically look different, right? So the last part of this that's gonna, the next part of this that's going to take a little thinking, okay, is it asks you about fungus, okay, fungi and bacteria. And you might need to fast forward into the video again just to see what they were talking about, okay? And then it asks you some questions about this food web, okay? So it says, please use the above food web to determine whether there is an increase, a decrease, or no change for each organism, okay? First of all, number 8, it said, please draw in arrows. I drew them in for you, okay, because it's a PDF and it was a pain in the butt and I still have to even fill it in so that it matches the video. But I just want you to know that you don't have to do number 8 because I'm doing it for you. What you want to do is just use it as a reference, okay, and take a look at these questions down here. It's going to give you a scenario. It'll say something like, there are types of pathogenic fungi that can attack living amphibians, such as frogs. One of these types of fungi is known as the chytrid fungus. For each of the following organisms in the table, describe how each organism population might be affected by an infestation of that fungus, okay? So take a look at that food web and think, well, if the frog, okay, is getting this fungus, okay, then what's going to happen if a snake eats the frog? Or what's going to happen if the frogs die out? What will happen to the grasshoppers if there's not really that many frogs to eat them? Is their population going to increase? Like, what's going to happen? Okay, see, use your brain. Just logically walk yourself through the food web and think, what is going to happen if I start at the organism that this paragraph is talking about? If I start here, how are these other things in the food web affected by that? Okay, so that is about it. If you have questions, we're going to have another meeting on Thursday, and I promise I'll make it a little easier. I don't know if we're going to do the Google Meet again. We might try to do the Schoology Hangout or the Schoology conference app instead. I haven't decided yet. So email me, comment if you have questions, and maybe I wish you guys all the luck. Bye, guys.